everyone, and welcome back to the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina. Happy Tuesday to you all. I hope that you're having a fantastic day today. Just a reminder that this week we are talking about encouragements for the year, where I outline a different type of encouragement to really get you all fired up and ready to take on 2021. And today, Tuesday, we're going to be specifically talking about speak your mind more often. But before we jump into the episode, as always, I want to encourage you to try the 5-minute reset, which is to take at least 5 minutes to be by yourself, and it allows you to reset, reboot, restart your day right then and there. You can draw a line in the sand if you are having a hard day and you just want to leave all the stuff that's already happened to you behind and start fresh and be able to still enjoy the rest of your day, still be able to look forward to the rest of your day, still be able to feel accomplished and productive and have all of those positive feelings as opposed to letting all those other things drag you down. You know, you can take a break from any issues or burdens that are weighing you down. You can take time to come up with a resolution for any problems or issues that you're dealing with alone or with someone else. I encourage everyone to create a list of at least 4 things that you're grateful for, big, small, or medium size. You can be grateful for having the time to, keep everything in order in your house. Whether you're super busy with work or kids or family, you can be grateful for your being able to have time management. You can be grateful for just the shoes on your feet. If you're grateful for the clothes on your back and being able to have those things to, keep you well dressed, especially if you live in a place where the weather is seriously cold. I understand that. I grew up in Alaska, so I understand needing to be, clothed well enough to keep yourself warm. Or maybe you are grateful for a couple pieces of new furniture in your home. Maybe you saved up and you were able to buy a couple things, and that has just really sparked some joy for you. Or maybe you are grateful for having a great Monday, being able to get through the Monday rush if your work does have some hard times on Mondays. I love Mondays, as everyone around here knows, but those days can typically be very busy for certain people depending upon what you do for work, and maybe you're just grateful you got through it. You can literally be grateful for anything and everything. The list is never endless, so I encourage you to do that even if you don't want to do or need to do the 5-minute reset. Create a gratitude list, and last but not least, make sure that you're feeling at least positive, if not neutral. I said that backwards. That's funny. Make sure you're feeling at least neutral, if not positive, about the rest of your day so that you can just be able to flow through and have a positive rest of your day and positive experience, and know that if you spend more time dwelling on the positives, on the blessings, on those amazing things happening in your life, those gratitudes, then you will be able to get through any hard struggles that you may be dealing with in your life. I promise you. But I do hope that you're having a fantastic Tuesday. Just a reminder, like I said at the top of the show, we are talking about encouragements for the year. And today, Tuesday, we're going to speak your mind more often. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. I find that so many people hold back their opinion because of fear of offending others or being judged for what they are going to say. But I'm here to tell you that there is a way for you to speak your mind more often without letting either one of these things get in your way. And I totally think that speaking your mind is something that's so important to so many people, because a lot of people feel silenced and a lot of people feel like they can't say what they want to say. And again, there is a balance. There are boundaries here. You don't want to be out there bashing people, gossiping, saying negative things, trying to force people to believe what you're saying, because, there's going to be many occasions where we all have differing opinions, but we should still all feel the courage and the confidence and the strength to speak what we feel, our own personal opinions, and what we think needs to be said while still being respectful. I was always afraid to speak my mind growing up because I was taught to be perfect, which we've talked about many times. I lived a life where I felt I was forced into perfection, and it was hard. And I know I'm not the only person that grew up in that kind of home, family, that had that kind of parenting style. But yeah, I was expected to be perfect so that I would be that shining gold star, that trophy that my dad could show off to other people, so that, they'd be like so astounded that like a single dad was able to, grow and teach this wonderful child all by himself, and be so impressed with him. That is the illusion that he was giving off. Oh, look at my perfect kid. I'm able and capable to do it all on my own. And I don't have anything against single dads. I really don't. But this is just the way that my childhood went, unfortunately. But yeah, I was taught to be perfect, which meant ultimately to shut up, keep quiet and don't embarrass yourself, i.e. don't embarrass him. Don't embarrass my dad. And maybe you had this with your dad, or maybe you had this with your mom, or maybe both of your parents. I can't imagine having that with both my parents. My mom did not have the expectation for me to be perfect. Her expectation was for me to not be needy, and to grow up quickly and to just be there as a kid that she could pay attention to, and then other times not. It was a difficult relationship with my mother. I loved her dearly, appreciated her way more than my dad, but she had struggles. She had legit struggles. I know he did too, and that's not what we're here to talk about today. But, it's just like when you reflect back on like how your parents decided to parent you and teach you the ways of the world and to have you grow up into that adult that we've all become, it's interesting when you reflect back. I'm like, why did they make these choices? What has driven them to do that? But yeah, so I was taught, keep quiet, don't embarrass yourself, and again, I'm sure I'm not alone in this experience, and unfortunately, it's one that clings tight to so many of us. Clearly, you can see that it clings tight to me. I have since forgiven him, but it's just when I reflect back and think about like, what happened, why it happened, it's just very like what? Like, you obviously needed more help than you wanted to let on, and you obviously were more proud and all about your ego than you thought you were. So, but yeah, those experiences, those things that we learned cling so tightly to us. And the reason so many have trouble speaking their mind is because at one time or another, they were taught not to say anything, not to speak up, don't offer your opinion, or be ridiculed when they tried, when you did have the confidence and courage to say what you wanted to say. It could have also been an experience of embarrassment or shame. Regardless of what it was wrong, it was wrong, When you're being put down or told not to do something, if you don't have the strength to push back in the moment, those feelings of being rejected and shut down can really latch onto you and have repercussions through the rest of your life until you decide to push back, which could be now in your adulthood. It was me in my adulthood. It was more so when I would say like halfway through college, more towards the end of college, but even still struggling with it then, because like I've told you many times, I grew up being a perfectionist, people pleaser, and I didn't want to necessarily stand up for what I believed in. I would just take on other people's beliefs and desires and stand up for those, kind of offer them as my own. I was totally an imposter. I can totally agree with that and admit that to you. But that's who I was, and that's what people pleasers do. They're just taking on someone else's desires and what they want and what would please them, and that's what I offered off as my own opinions. But the problem is that my own opinions and thoughts were still there. It's just that I buried them so far down. So, learning how to, repress the people pleaser, what would you say, characteristics of myself, and then actually digging deeper of like, how do I truly feel about this? It took a little work, and I can imagine it could take work for other people, whether or not you struggled with being a perfectionist or people pleaser. Maybe you just struggle with actually getting the words out. Maybe you struggle with like deathly fear, anxiety about sharing those things because you don't know how they're going to come across. You don't know how or if they are going to be accepted. But I want to encourage you to stand up for yourself and say what you want to say, within reason of not bashing someone else like someone may have done to you. That is the caveat. You got to be respectful, you got to be civil, and you can't just like go at someone, It's like those reality shows where people are trying to stand up for what they believe in, but they're yelling and they're screaming in people's faces and they're just repeating and they're not listening. You got to engage in listening to understand, not to accept, right? That's actually something that I learned from a gal. Her name is Sharon something. She's amazing. She talks about government and Supreme Court issues and politics and just gives the facts, non-biased, just gives the facts. But, it's important for you to understand that you can't just bash someone. You can't just go out there and try to force someone else to believe what you believe. You have to engage in listening. Listen to understand, not to accept. You don't have to accept what they're saying, but you need to engage in listening and being like, oh, okay, well, that's why they believe that, but I still believe this way, and still be able to meet on common ground. So anyway, that's the caveat I have to put there. But still, I want you to be able to share what's in your mind, what's your opinion on something. You can't be the only one that is left out. It's not fair. So I want to encourage you to definitely stand up for yourself and, say what you want to say when you want to say it. There shouldn't be a reason someone else can say what they want to say and you cannot. That's not fair. And if you think about it more and more that way as you're trying to get over your insecurities and your anxiety and your fear of wanting to speak up and say what's in your heart and mind, realize well, why do they get to say it and I don't get to say it? No, you do get to say it. You just have felt like that option has been taken away from you, but I'm here to encourage you that you get to take back that power, take back that self-confidence that was ripped from you at whatever time in your life, and know that you have the right to do that. It's a facade that someone was trying to convince you that you could not do that, when in reality, you sure could. Your opinion is just as valid and appropriate as someone else's because everyone is entitled to their opinion. That's something that we hear a lot, and it's true. You are entitled to your opinion, but just know that opinions still don't equal facts. That includes yours. That includes your own opinion. They don't equal facts. Sometimes your opinion could be a fact, but it doesn't. But then all opinions don't equal facts, right? A lot of the things that just go on in your own mind and your brain, all those negative thoughts and self-critical, demeaning things that happen, those are not even facts. A lot of we just get so much sensory input into our mind and everything gets jumbled around, and a lot of things that people say or have in their mind, talking to themselves or even come out and talk to others, it doesn't mean it's a fact. It does not mean it's a fact. But you should still share what you think and feel with others. It's super important you are able to contribute your own thoughts, which can allow someone else to learn from you and you from them, talking about listening to understand, not accept, if your thoughts are challenged. Having your thoughts challenged can be really hard in the beginning because you feel like someone's coming at you, and if they are a little bit more strong or aggressive in their way of doing it, it can be a little scary at first. But if you do it more and more, you'll realize that the way people come across you can get used to different styles and then understand how to go back with your own opinion to rebuttal. That's the word I was looking for. You can figure out what your rebuttal will be, and maybe you won't be so aggressive to hopefully be a role model of being more calm. But still, nevertheless, it's important for you to share, and it's important for you to learn from others and them from you. Now, maybe you have some of the issues I described, or maybe you don't. And the biggest thing in your way right now is not sure how to go about saying what you want. You just don't know how to do it. You just don't know how to get it out there. And I totally get it. So let's just talk about how to get to that point kind of briefly. I would encourage you to speak up to people you are most comfortable with first. So if you just kind of need a practice round or just a comfort zone to start in so that you can, soon venture out and talk to peers and, friends or family members that you don't interact with a lot, people at work, at church, at your volunteer thing, on the internet, whatever it may be. I would start with people that you are actually super comfortable with. You don't feel like super shy or like people are going to judge you, or if they are, it's like a mutual agreement of you guys just like ragging on each other, that kind of thing. It's a great place to start and get used to jumping into conversations or just sharing a random thought, you know? So I feel like it's a really good playground to start in. Sharing with people you're comfortable with also allows you to not be so critical of yourself when you're speaking. It's so common for people not to want to say what they're going to say because they are critical of like, is it going to come out right? And is what I'm saying true? Are they going to understand what I'm saying? Does what I'm saying even make sense? Am I even warranted? My opinion? Yes, you are. To that last one, of course. You know? So yeah, you got to work on not being so critical of yourself when you're speaking. And on that note, when you want to share with someone, you're going to have to cut back on your internal negative thoughts and self-critical behavior, like I was just talking about. It's a major setback when you get into a fight in your mind over whether or not you should offer up your honest thoughts, you know? That's not where you want to be. You want to be clear-headed and ready to go and excited to share. And if you're able to get past this, or not even have to deal with this, like if you don't have to deal with this, like blessings, make sure you are aware of how emotional you are in your comments. Sometimes when we are passionate about something, it can come across differently than we intended. You know, like when I was speaking, if someone's coming at you and they're a little more aggressive than you feel they should be, or you can tell that they're trying really hard to convince you that what they're saying is right and for you to change your mind, or they're crying and they're more emotional on the side of like, you have to believe what I'm saying, you have to understand. They're so deeply invested in what they're talking about that they kind of like lose rationality of the conversation and become over emotional. A lot of those things can happen, but it's important to kind of keep yourself in check. I'm not saying you can't be emotional or excited, but I feel like there's definitely a balance there that you have to figure out for your own balance of what you're comfortable with and what will continue to keep you confident to continue the conversation and to keep sharing what you are feeling. So what should you do about your fear of ridicule and judgment and non-acceptance? I'm sure that's a question. You're like, okay, well, what should I do about these things? Honestly, let go of it. That's what I would say. And you're like, oh, Sabrina, how easy for you to say that. Yeah, it is easy for me to say that. It's easy for anyone to say that. It's easy for Linda down the street to say that. Like, I understand that's not going to fix the problem, but it's something that you need to spend time on, meditate on, really accept in your mind. You got to let it go. It doesn't matter what others think of what you say. It truly doesn't. I know it can seem like it does because acceptance and possibility of judgment is in the balance. But you don't want people, don't you want people to respect you more than being out of alignment with your thoughts? You know, it's something to think about. Honestly, it's like, don't you want them to respect the fact that you have an opinion, you have a strong thought, that you are passionate about this, or that you are thoroughly researched and understanding in this thing or whatever the heck it is, rather than them be upset that you don't believe the same thing or you're not in the same alignment on your thinking, on your thought process? Like, that will come and go because there's definitely going to be a time where it's not aligned. And that's okay. And there's going to be many times. That's just how life is with people. We're all different. We all grow and learn from each other. That's what the world's about. It's amazing. I love it. It's fantastic. So you have to figure out a way to just let that all fall off, that fear, ridicule, and judgment and non-acceptance. Because if someone decides not to accept you because you don't think the same way that they do, that's probably not a friendship that was going to last much longer anyway. Maybe it could have lasted years longer, but then maybe you also felt like you were being suffocated with the fact that you aren't able to truly be who you are and have your own thoughts and share those thoughts and feel free in that, right? That's not fun. That's not a friendship or a relationship you want to be in. You want to be able to be yourself, not like half of yourself or a quarter of yourself or a pretend version ghost of yourself. You want to be able to just be truly yourself. And yes, you're going to grow and learn and become a better person with the right person and with the right people in your life. But if they're still not going to allow you to have different thoughts than them, That is not that is not the right relationship for you to be a part of. I just truly don't think so. So it's important for you to realize and talk to yourself about, okay, I have to let it go. I have to understand that, yeah, you could be ridiculed, you could be judged, you could be not accepted. But those are just chances and risks that we all have to take every time that we speak up and speak out on things. I take that risk every single time that I post an episode of my podcast on the internet. Everyone takes that chance when they post anything on the internet, because it's forever. It's there forever. And people are out there looking for things to judge people on and to bash on and to be mean about, because they're projecting their own anger and frustration and emotions onto other people because they don't know how to deal with it themselves, right? That's just another plug for self-awareness. Understand yourself better. But yeah, you're just going to have to let those things go. You're going to have to continue to encourage yourself and realize that those cannot be the things you live and die by. They cannot. They cannot, for you to be your best self, to grow, to learn, to become you 10x, right? And, let me wrap this up by making sure I mentioned you should believe in the things you are saying. Absolutely. And don't go into the conversation assuming no one will agree with you. And even if they don't, that's fine. Not everyone is going to agree. They shouldn't. We're all different, as I talk about all the time. You have to believe in what you're going to say. It's as I was mentioning before, where I would, when I was talking about being a people pleaser, and I would take on other people's thoughts and feelings and opinions and emotions and project them out as my own. I didn't truly believe in those things. I was just doing that as a way of protecting who I was, to serve other people, to be accepted and not judged and not ridiculed. And that was the wrong way to live. And I don't live like that anymore. Sometimes I do. It kind of slips, but I catch myself, because that's not fully living. That's not freely being who you are. So you have to believe. In it. If you believe in it, then you have confidence. You have confidence, you'll be more willing to speak up and know that it's okay if no one agrees, because it's fine. Because there's going to be a time where someone else in your group and no one agrees with them, and another one, and another one, and another one. You get disagreement. You get disagreement. We all get disagreement. Like, it's just normal. It's normal. And I feel like we all need to work on practicing making that even more normal, because I feel like we can all get caught up in our little groups and our little cliques where, we're so opposed to someone else that is different from us, when honestly we should be inviting even more people that are different from us so we can continue to learn and grow, be pushed out of our comfort zones, be pushed out of our normal everyday thinking processes, be challenged in those ways. How are we going to become better people if we aren't continually challenged? I feel like we get so lazy. We get so stagnant in what we're doing and who we're with and how we're engaging in our life with others. We need to push out more. But I want you to share your mind, share your thoughts, be comfortable in what you want to share. And maybe sometimes you'll be wrong and need to be corrected, which is fine. Or you'll be challenged in your thinking, which is good and great for growth. But there will also be times others will appreciate what you're saying and want to hear more and even agree with you. And you won't know until you give it a shot. You won't. So you got to give it a shot. You got to give it a try. You got to speak your mind more. You got to get comfortable with it. You got to try it. You'll love it. I promise. But that's all I have to say today, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Again, my name is Sabrina. Happy Tuesday to you all. Thank you so much for listening and downloading and sharing. I appreciate you guys so much. Check the description box for notes for the show, where to find me on Instagram, which is at Sabrina Joy Perozzo, or send me an email. I forget which email is down there. Whatever email's down there, I do check it, because I check all my email every day. And send me any questions, comments, concerns, prayer requests, feedback, topic suggestions, or just to say hey, hi, and hello to me. I would love it. Please come visit me over on Instagram. I'm on there every day. I will chit chat with you back and forth in the DMs. And I think I want to hear from more of you if I can. And so if you come over and talk to me, there is a chance that I could send you a little like coffee gift card or something like that. Just a little bit of something like a thank you, to be like, thank you so much for coming and saying hi and following and just chit-chatting with me and getting to know me even more, because I would love to I would love to get to know you guys even more. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to talk about give back as much as you can, continuing our encouragements of the year topic. But until then, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.